Fuck it down.
Okay. I'm gonna kill this music here. so I think we should be just about ready here. And we have things coming up on the screen. This looks about like what I want. Let me remember to press the record button this time, so I stop having to ask YouTube to give me my videos again. I'm not sure if I've ranted about that anywhere else. It is very, very frustrating to me that the way YouTube handles streams and the versions I can download, basically, I can give YouTube a very nice picture like this. They won't give me the full quality back in the little download link, even if you can stream it at full quality. So, it's annoying, but I think it is just about all ready to go. Let me just make sure here. We have that. I can close the music. We have things here. Hello, kitty. Hopefully she does not want to get too involved with the stream. Okay. We have this set up. We have this set up. We have the test machine set up. We have a VirtualBox VM running. I think this is most of the things we want to have running. Oh, I don't have my notes and stuff here. Okay. And did this line up properly? Looks like it lined up just about right. It's a little bit off. Let's go a scooch over. You can go away, go away, go away. Okay. That was done, that was done. So, we have stuff. Let's see here. Where are we today? We have all of this stuff. So if everything is working, we have a working VirtualBox VM here, which it looks like it's working to me. Don't you do it. So I realize you can't see this. The cat has decided that now that I have started streaming, she's been fine while I've been working here all day, that now is when she's going to start batting at the power cable in the back of my desktop. Nope. 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 Nope, those are not food either. Okay. Those are not food. Stop. Okay. Give me just a second here. Of course. Now she's going to leave them alone. Anyway, we have this. We have things working. So let's talk real quick about where we're at right now. So this is part 4. We're on episode 4 now of these VirtualBox streams. And if we look up here, we started off, looks like over a month ago now, looking at VirtualBox. We pulled down the source code, we took a look at a few CVEs, we looked at a few different things on it. And the idea was that by looking at these, I'm blanking on the word here. Looking at these CVEs, it'll give us a good idea of what the possible attack surface for VirtualBox is. The idea here is basically, if we understand the various ways that a guest can talk to the host. So we have the guest that is running inside. In this case, we have Ubuntu, and then we have a host, which is running on top of it, which is running the actual VirtualBox hypervisor stuff. Then, if we understand all those communication pathways, we basically have a pretty good idea of all of the areas that an exploitable bug could live in for the purpose of like hypervisor breakouts and stuff. And the place to start with that, at least in my opinion, one of the best places to start with that is by looking at the existing public research. If there's already public research, we should take a look at it first, so we're not just duplicating things over and over again. And a great place to start with that are CVEs. If somebody has already taken the time to find bugs and publicly report them and things like that, let's start there. We'll go through those. So we started this off, we looked at a couple of them. We ran into some issues with me trying to learn how to use SVN, because for whatever reason they use SVN for this stuff. I don't know. Then we took a look at a few CVs. And then we ran into some roadblocks. We had to set up a test bed to test this. So we have some CVEs that should, in theory, crash VirtualBox. However, trying to test that is a little complicated because, as you may notice, I'm running Windows here. I'm also running Windows on most of my machines because that's what I prefer to use. And nested virtualization is a little tricky to get working. That is to say, having one virtual machine inside of another virtual machine on top of a bare metal host. For various reasons, has to do with how the actual hypervisor extensions work. At least that's my understanding. The way to set that up is kind of complicated, but that was all of episode 3 of this stream series, was me finally getting that set up. Basically, the idea was that we had to get it set up so that I could actually run everything on this laptop that I have. It's actually the laptop I usually play CTF on. Turns out it has a processor that is more amenable to that than the one in my streaming desktop. So we have that. We have an environment. We have a VM here. We have a host. I realize we can't actually see the host right now, but trust me, I'm SSH into it. It's good. We're also doing this wacky SSH routing thing. So again, my network here is set up in a way that I like, but is not very amenable to what we're trying to do here. Basically, my desktop cannot talk directly to my laptop, and so I can't just SSH from my desktop to my laptop. I'm having to actually, both of them are connecting out to an EC2 server, and then the desktop is connecting from the EC2 server back down to the laptop. And we're routing through all of that and things, and it actually, kind of surprisingly, it works. So we have that. We have it working. We have all of this. Is there anything else I need to do before we actually kick things off properly? We have this. We have this. So the to-do list I'm using right here, it's actually a plugin for Atom. The Atom, what's it called? The Atom, what do they call it? Just Atom. It's a text editor. I've used it previously. One of the plugins for it is called To Do or something like that, and that's what I'm using here. It's relatively simple, and it kind of just works. At least, as far as I've seen, it just works for me. Cool. So that's all of that. I think I have everything working. I don't know. So I tried using VS Code for this. I tried a couple different things. Like I was trying Sublime for it. I tried VS Code for it. I didn't actually find anything I really liked for this to-do list format, because I basically what I want is very simple. I want to be able to have these nested to-dos so that if somebody hops into the stream, an hour from now, they should be able to roughly see what we're working on, because I'm going to have, this is done. This is done. This is basically what we're going to start off with today. We're going to have to build one of these kernel modules inside our guest so that we can talk to the host over these virtualization channels. And the idea is that by having this to-do list here and on screen, everybody can keep track of where we're at. And I have a little bit better idea when I go to actually try and edit this video down. I can jump around a little bit. Oh, org mode. I almost considered trying to do that, but I'm more of a Vim user, and trying to learn an entire new operating system just to have a to-do list seems a little bit over the top to me. So, yeah, we have all of that. We have that. And you're still sitting there. Let me do one last thing before we really get started here. Let me make sure, actually. Nope. Okay. Making sure I don't have, like, Discord running and people are going to start sending me a bunch of messages or something. Yep, this is good, this is good, this is good. Okay. Yeah, let's take a look at this real quick. So, if we have everything working here, I should be able to... Oh, this is going to be painful, isn't it? I forgot how insanely slow this is to use. So, like I was saying earlier, the way that we're routing everything, so from my desktop up to an EC2 server, back down to my laptop, and then X-forwarding through that entire chain to be able to get to this, it's a little bit on the slow side. Come on. You know what? You can go away for a minute. Oh, you're actually going to stay. Interesting. It's interesting that you'll stay open here and do it. That's fine. Rather than trying to do this one over... I don't need a UI. All I need right now is the IP address of my guest. I just need to actually figure out what it is. Oh, there we go. We finally logged in there. Ooh. Is this going to work? I want to show this. You can't directly see what I'm doing. I'm trying to, on the laptop, so I don't have all this extra X forwarding crap. Okay. Are you going to load my terminal for me? Nope. I need a terminal. Okay. So I should be able to 10.02.15. Are you going to connect? Have I not installed? Okay. No, you're already installed. Why aren't you routing to this then? So the UI isn't going to speed, like turning off GDM isn't going to speed things up too much. There's basically what's happening, and the entire problem is there's a ton of latency because of how I'm doing X forwarding. Yeah, let's see here. Click. Wait. This I can very easily do on the laptop and not have to wait for all of this. Network. The networking, I am indeed natted. Sure, we'll switch to host-only adapter. Invalid settings detected. No host-only adapter is selected. Okay, screw it. You're going to be a bridge adapter then. Okay. How about now? Let's pull me a... Oh, right. You're that wacky... Come on. Give me a new IP address. Hopefully this will be on some network. Come on. Give me an IP address. Can you get out right now? You cannot get out right now. Networking, it's currently set to be bridged. Sure, this is another one. What connections do we have here? So we just have our etho, which is on this connection. You know what? Let's try this one more time. We're going to network, put you on a bridged adapter, because bridge should work for me. You're good. And now I'm just going to force kick this machine. We're resetting you. Bye-bye now. Hello, Jacob. Welcome to the stream. Oh, let's stop killing this. You're going to go over here. We're doing this. We're going to go zoop, line you back up here. Come on. That looks good to me. And then you're going to come back down so that people can see properly. It doesn't line up perfectly, but it'll work. And so what I'm currently doing is I just rebooted the machine in with a bridge connection, and I'm hoping that bridged works properly. But we'll see. We'll see if this loads. Okay. It's really weird to me. So I can see the little preview window, but I can't actually connect to it or do anything on my host here. It's kind of weird to me. What kind of an IP address do you have? You have no IP address. That is not what I want. Activation of network failed? The crap does that mean? You're sending and receiving packets. Yep. DH client ENPOS3. Why is it failing? Come on. This is not where I... Computers. If I'm going to go with NAT, I can port forward. Yeah. I'm hoping that there's a easy way to do this, that I don't have to actually do that. Like I can always do the same, like, overly complicated routing stuff that I'm currently using to get to the laptop from my streaming desktop, but I'd really rather avoid that. Like, I want you to just work. But of course you will not. Okay, so if I can't bridge, my next best option so if I NAT it, yeah, I guess we'll do that. So the host port 22, no, I want my host port 222 to go to guest port 22. Okay. Which means you should now be able to get an IP address. What? Why do you hate me? Okay. Try this one more time. So Hugo, the reason I'm not streaming from the laptop is just because I didn't think this was going to be as painful to set up as it was. Transferring the setup for streaming over to the laptop probably would have been less work than trying to get everything like routing properly. But at the time, I thought, oh, this is simple. I'm just going to be able to route between these two machines on the same network. How hard can it be? Turns out, more than I expected. Turns out it has been many minutes worth of time. Will I show kernel space exploitation? I actually don't think so, because of how at least my understanding of how the driver works, I don't know how much we'll need to. So there's going to be a driver on the host, which would be running in kernel space, but I don't know exactly how much, like, true, what you normally think of as kernel space exploitation is actually going to be necessary. And my hope here is that we're going to just chain together a couple bugs and we're just going to get code execution. It'll be wonderful and everything will be great. But we'll see. This is going to be an exciting exploration for everyone. You're going to go away. Let's see here. Ah, we have an IP address again. And can I get to the Googles? Well, I can't get to the Googles because I can't type Google. But NC localhost. That's not what I want to see. I thought I told you to port forward because that's going to be faster. Like, thank you for the people who suggested the port forwarding because that should just work. Oh, come on. I guess we're... Nope, you're going away. No, I don't want to record my game. VirtualBox port forward. How to forward ports to a virtual machine and use it as a server. Sure, this sounds good. I don't want bridge networking. This is a lie. NAT port forwarding. So that's what I have set up. Oh, was I being... Did I do it the wrong direction? Yeah, the netcat should work. Yeah, it's... So SSHD is listening like it should be. But you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Interesting. Settings. Yeah, so that's actually what I have, which is why I'm surprised it isn't working. This is so painfully slow, which is why I did this on the laptop. I can do it without all this input lag. But I have host port is 222, guest port is 22. Yes, yes, connected. You should just be working right now. Sure, reload the settings. Yeah, I don't know any of the new stuff, do I? Okay. Wait, why don't I do this the other way to do this? Virtual... Ah! VBox manage. Okay, I want to do... VBox, seriously? Okay. We're gonna do this because it's gonna be hopefully a little bit faster. Let's do a VBox manage list VMs. We have that. Awesome. Show VM info. VBox manage show VM info test. Wonderful. Okay. What do we have here? We have some memory. That looks fine. Nix. I see Nix stuff down here. You are connected. Why is that not working? It says that it's set up. Why are you not listening? Of course, I can't click on any of the buttons here. No, do not reboot again. I would prefer you not to do that. Okay. Oh, no. We need some power here. Try setting the IP machine as guest. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was actually going to set it to 000 for the guest. This is one of the things I really dislike about using VirtualBox. Oh crap! It scrolled off the thing. I need to do another. When it works, it's okay to work with, but the error, like any of the error situations, are close to impossible to troubleshoot. Okay. Because, like, what do I do with this information that, okay, host IP is 000, host port 222, guest IP is that, guest port is that. And now you still aren't listening. Yeah, emulating the physical network adapter didn't work either. The guest actually didn't accept it as a connection at all, and I don't know why. Why are you not opening this port? Okay, let's do the other thing here, because this should work, right? 172.26.230.38. Yes. Okay, awesome. That will work. So I want to do a SSH key gen. Yes. Defaults. nc-l ports. This is going to go into my authorized keys. .ssh id rsa.pub, pipe it to nc72262338. Ports. I need to give you ports. Shoo shoo shoo. Okay, that worked. So now there is a SSH public key for the VirtualBox guest on the host for VirtualBox. So I can do a SSH-R localhost 22. We're going to put only 3 2s there. And then I want to actually SSH into it. Like that. Okay, that worked. And now, for maximum ridiculousness, I can now SSH localhost port 222. What? SSH-R. This should work. Come on. Typing is the hardest part of this, isn't it? Okay. So you're connected. Why are you refusing to do the thing that I'm telling you to do? SSH-R. 222 colon localhost colon 22. Okay, so we're now listening. Oh. Oh, this is the worst, isn't it? And of course, now we're input lagging and everything is being awful. Oh, I should be able to do it from here, can't I? Why is that not working? I feel like I'm crazy here. Okay. SSH dash, let me make sure I'm not, like, am I just being dumb here and I don't know how to use computers? SSH-R. This is not what I want. Port forwarding. Don't care about any of this. Ow, computers. Sure, let's look at this one. Nope. What about this one? No, I just want... That's right. Of course it does. Ow. Oh. Thank you. Okay, SSH-R, which on the remote server should open up port. Oh, for fuck's sake. God. Oh. Of course, I'm being a moron here. So what was happening there was I was trying to open a port under 1,000, which of course requires elevation, which of course SSH wasn't doing by default. All I needed to do was have it be a port above 1,000 so that I didn't need to be root to listen on it. Computers were such a mistake. Okay, so we have all of this. We are now SSH'd all the way into the guest. So, next step. Our next step is we need to install the guest editions. So let's mount those real quick. I'm yet again doing this in the host for it because hoping it's going to be a little bit less painful because there's a fair amount of clicking, if I remember correctly. Actually, maybe I can't. You're going to, sure, let's save it for a second. And of course, this is going to screw everything. No, you won't let me save it either, will you? Come on. It's really weird that they won't let me connect twice to this thing, because that makes it a lot harder to do the things I actually want to do here. Can I easily, like... I just want to install the guest editions, which means I need to mount the thing. And you're not letting me click. I get single clicks, don't I? Why did SSH? Yes, SSH very much should have told me, hey, you're being a moron, please click the right button. Sure. You know what? We're just going to do this for a second. So you are saving. Well, so I want the source code for it. And now I'm hopeful when this closes. Good, good. Hopefully you just pop right back up. Come on, finish starting. So for at least right now, my hope here is that I can click the buttons on my laptop here, and that way we don't have all these input problems, because holy crap, is that a pain. Come on, finish starting back up. Do 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 do. Okay, and I'm going to want to insert guest editions CD image. Yep. There we go. Okay, and now we're SSH back into it. Just understand my setup. Yes, that's roughly the setup that's working. So the reason we're not getting a direct connection is because the way my home network is set up, but without changing a whole bunch of rules, none of the machines can route directly to each other. And I don't particularly want... I don't want to set things up so that everybody on my network can easily route to my laptop or other machines on the wireless network. So rather than changing all those features, I'm just bouncing off another server because that's, while not trivial to set up, it's better than changing a whole bunch of features like that. Okay. So you were mounted. Media, you. Okay. This is what I want. So if I do, I assume, run as root. The fuck is that? Is this like a set UID just run command thing? Because if so, that's hilarious. What is this doing? Okay, well, I don't actually need to use that. I probably want to do a sudo VirtualBox Linux editions.run. And we're installing the module. System is currently not set up to build kernel modules. Please install the GCC make Perl packages. Sudo apt get install. Sudo apt get install GCC make Perl. Yes, install everything. Go for it. I can put a CD in my CD drive that has a set UID binary on it. Yes, I think modern systems don't allow that. What just happened? Why did you die? Okay, I guess we're restarting this machine again. So Dirtbest Officer, yes and no. So, where's a good example here? So, I don't have a CD on this machine, but when you do that, by default, it's going to give you, so there's a whole bunch of options that it's mounted with. One of the important ones is to mount it no set UID. So by default, any sort of external media is supposed to be mounted no set UID, which stops you from doing that because it used to be a thing. You just jam it in, it's set UID, and now you have root. But because most things mount by default as no set UID, you can't just escalate privileges that way. It is a thing with certain types of fuse file systems where you can misconfigure them so that a guest, like unprivileged user, can activate a fuse file system that is mounted without the nosetUID, and it works. So it's a thing. Come on, finish booting. I'm watching on the laptop. It's sitting there doing the spinny, like the red and white dots going back and forth. I don't think I will be rooting any Android devices anytime soon. I'm actually not sure what I'm not sure what the next thing we're going to be doing on stream is once we finish these. At the very least, what I want to do is I want to take one or two of these CVEs. I say one or two because I don't know if I'm going to need one bug or two of them to actually do that. We might need to use two different bugs to have like a memory disclosure so we can get pointers and stuff, and a second one with a write, but we'll see. After we finish that, though, I'm not sure exactly what the next topic is going to be. I've definitely enjoyed doing these, so it's possible we're going to take another target and look at CVEs for it. Alternatively, there's been a couple other recommendations for like specific things to look at. We'll just see where things line up after that. Still sitting here doing the little red and white balls, and it's still not booted. And now they've stopped, which is not a good sign. Come on. Yep. A critical error has occurred while running the virtual machine, and machine execution has been stopped. Well, screw you too. Okay. Let's try this again. Let's try this again. Why did I choose Ubuntu? It's what I'm most familiar with, and I assume it has most of the packages that I want on it. Not for any particularly good reason. Like it's the crash you just dismissed was the next. Maybe. Maybe I have broken this VM, and if so, I will be unhappy because I don't think I remembered to make a snapshot before I did things to it. Come on. Oh, there we go. So we've reset it. It worked. I'm logging back in. I need to know what my IP address is again. ifcon. Okay. So we're coming back in here. Terminal. Apt ssh-r2222 localhost 22.172.26.230.38. Ta-da! Okay, you worked. You were connected. You can now do an SSH localhost port 2222. I have a super secret password here for all of these machines. Can't tell you what it is. You'll never guess it. Make Perl. Ooh, okay. dpackage -- configure -a. This might explain why it had trouble trying to boot. It is not 1, 2, 3, 4. It is simpler than that. Okay, we're installed here. cd/media. Yep. sudo e. One of the two of you just guessed it, but I won't tell you which one. Come on. So this is getting set up. While this is going, let's take a look at this. I want, so if I go back up here, this was the one that had an exploit for it, right? Yes. This had a full exploit to it, and they actually described how to build these guest editions so that you can easily kick them and make them send things for us. Nope. Did I go past it? There's a flag for it. What's the flag? Okay, that's the bug. More about the bug. Modified module, we'll do it. First we need to download it. We downloaded it, we run it, we modify files, and then this is what we do. Okay. Interesting. So we copy that into the thing. Okay. Oh, and I will have to reboot it a few times. That's unfortunate. Good. So this looks like it's working. We should have guest editions installed now. So now we need to actually pick what version of VirtualBox are we running. So we are running VirtualBox 6.0. I believe this one was one of the CVEs that we identified as... Can you explain what you mean by getting crashes while building... by building the kernel module? At least that's my hope here. Is that we're going to be able to build the kernel module to actually... So there's a couple of these CVEs recently which have public, at least, descriptions. What is this current exploit price? What? These are... This is not what I want. It's telling me a little bit more. No, this is not telling me anymore. Okay, I need to go back to the ZDI page because they actually describe things. Who would have thunk of it? VirtualBox. Okay, which one do we want to look at? Integer overflow privilege escalation vulnerability. Sure. This looks like a good place to start. So this was in the Chromium stuff, right? So we have this. What am I doing? I'm doing a thing, aren't I? Oh, good. So that still works. What was I doing here? Sorry, I clicked buttons and things did not do what I wanted them to do. Where are we at here? Right. So this requires the graphics to be turned on. So let's turn that on real quick too. So we're on 6.0, which this should be vulnerable to, correct? According to Oracle, scroll, 2526. Prior to 6.02, and according to this, we're on 6.00, which should be vulnerable. Awesome. Actually, what did this other thing say? Anonymous worker, or anonymous researcher. Anonymous researcher. Man. This person was quite busy with the Oracle products. But let's not get distracted too much here. I need to make sure that the virtual graphics is turned on. The reason for that is because this bug at least is in the Chromium stuff, which is turned off. Okay, we are yet again shutting off this VM. It has been nice knowing you, VM. You will once again be turned off. Goodbye, VM. So let's see here. So this is the Chromium server dispatch get active uniform function. Chromium is apparently one of the ways that a VirtualBox VM can talk to a virtualized video card so that it's able to do, video-y things. So we'll turn you on and start you up again. So what we need to do is we need to actually turn on the Chromium stuff. I don't actually know if I need to turn on the 3D acceleration or not, but at least my understanding is that it is off by default. It is off on this VM. So we need to actually turn it on so that we can poke things and get it to connect. Let's see if it boots this time. Can someone from the viewers summarize the process? Right. So what we're doing right now is, so we're taking a look at this CVE right here. We've got the window open here. Right now, all that we know, well, relatively confidently know, is this paragraph right here, that there is a bug in this function. On, I think, the first or second stream, we actually took a look at it, and we're like, yeah, this is clearly an integer overflow. Awesome. The issue results from the lack of proper validation. What we need to do now is we're down here. We've built it once, so let's check that one off. Build kernel module with mods. So now we need to actually build it with the modifications so that we can do things. So yes, I will need a debugger. I don't necessarily need it to be a remote debugger because I can SSH into the laptop, the host for VirtualBox. I'm saying host in quotes because the host is still a VM. It's just not running in VirtualBox. I can actually SSH into that and use a local debugger for it, depending on exactly how it crashes. I don't know which process it's going to crash in, so it's possible that we're not going to take down the entire system. But we'll see. Because it is, in fact, very possible that we crash stuff. And we actually already took a look at some of the things that we need. We're going to take a look. Basically, we're going to do a print K here once we get this kernel module built. What that's going to do is that's going to tell us how big of an object we need to pass in. Because, and you know what, we probably have the source around here someplace, don't we? Is it in here? It looks like you're in here. Well, this is not the right version because we're looking at a... So we're looking at version... What we're running is version 6. Although it says... Do we need version 6? Yeah. So according to this, it is vulnerable in both version 6 and version 5.2.22. We have the source code for 5.2.22 here. So we should be able to at least look this up. I don't remember where it was. If you go back to one of the earlier streams, you can actually see where we were doing. Why is GNOME not loading now? This is what I always wanted. Reset again, yes. Okay. That's my tags file, yes. That's good. Let's try and boot this again. If this doesn't boot, we're going to turn off 3D acceleration, boot it with the additions, shut it down, boot it again. Because hopefully that works. Okay, so what was this? So while we were looking at this, so this apparently has a price for it that they've calculated somehow. Over time, an exploit loses its value. This applies to a generic process of time, but special events might enforce this price loss. This includes the public disclosure within an advisory availability. Okay. Which one are we looking at? We're looking at 2526. How much do they say this one's worth? Ooh, this is worth $5,000. I don't understand. Yeah, okay. They're claiming that because there's a CVE for it, but the technical details are limited to this line right here, and there's not a publicly available exploit, they're estimating that is worth $5,000 to $25,000. I'll buy that. That sounds reasonable. So the reasoning here going, right? For anyone who's curious, like $25,000 sounds like a fair amount for something that's going to be, you know, what is ultimately, say, 100 lines of C or something like that to actually trigger it. But if you assume it's $25,000, and let's say, like, if you're talking about, like, some contractor, like, contracted hourly rate, if you're billing services and stuff like that, it's going to depend a lot on rates and things like that, but we're going to assume that, you know, you're paying somebody who is very skilled at what they do. And it's going to cost them, you know, they're going to charge $250 an hour, which means that $25,000 is about 100 hours of their time, or a little bit over 2 weeks worth of work, which I think it's a little on the high side, but, you know, if you assume instead, you know, the 5,000, it's 20 hours of work for somebody at, like, reasonable, like, rates. $5,000 isn't, like, seems reasonable for that. But the hard part there is actually finding somebody who is willing to buy the exploit. Well, buy a already known exploit that is patched in the latest version. That, at least from my understanding, is relatively tricky to do. Okay, this is still not booting properly, so we're shutting you back down. For whatever reason, it's failing to load GNOME now. So we're shutting back off the 3D acceleration. We're booting it back up. First thing, iOS is probably, I mean, I totally would believe that. I actually have no idea how much rates for a lot of that stuff would be, especially given that it would, like, since we're talking about, like, single contracted work, not like a full-time job someplace, it's trickier because that requires a lot of, like, relationships with who you're, like, buying and selling with. For one-off things like a working exploit, the, like, buying and selling can be a little bit easier because at least I can say, oh, I have a working exploit for CVE blah 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 blah, I would like $5,000, and then I can actually, like, publish that and people could be like, oh yes, I will give you dollars for that, and it's doable. Whereas future work, it's harder to price out and things like that. But it is a thing. Okay, this can go away now. We've read this. Still waiting on this VM to boot now. It's at least booting farther. We have GNOME loaded this time at least, which is a good sign. Because GNOME not loading is a pain in the ass. Like, that is definitely not where I want to be. So I booted fine with the 3D acceleration turned off. Which gives me uncomfortable feelings about this because if this doesn't work, it might be tricky to do things. So SSH-R2222 localhost 22.172. What was my IP address again? This thing. What is my IP address? If conf 26230. Go back to the terminal. 2623038. Oh, actually, you know what? What am I calling this? Plus X. Nope. Great, I've broken everything, haven't I? Oh, blur. Okay, there we go. So we're back here. SSH localhost -p2222, and I'm in. Okay. What am I doing here? That's what I want. lsmod. What do we have running here right now? So we do have the VBox video stuff running. So maybe we don't actually need to turn on the acceleration then? Well, I guess we're going to find out, aren't we? So what did this author say? So we copied this into... So they downloaded the image, they mounted it, they ran it. So presumably, we can go and say cp70 vbox.pwn.rules. What is vbox? Oh, this is what's actually going to create the device, which I don't think we care about this early on. But how about this directory? Does this exist? So cd usr source. I have nothing here. Let's see what we can find here. So there should be a folder someplace that's called VBox Video, apparently, which hopefully, if we can find that, should have the source code in it, and we'll be able to poke at that a little bit, and hopefully that turns up what we're looking for. I'm hoping that between version 5.1.30, when this person wrote their exploit stuff. Whoa. Wait a minute. You're on the wrong machine. That explains things a little bit. We still don't have what we wanted though. Find dot name VBox video. This looks much more like what I was expecting to see. So we have sysmodule stuff. Interesting. So I guess we have the, I guess Ubuntu does ship with some of the drivers by default. Good to know. Anything else? Anything else? Yeah, I could pipe it, but having a little bit of crap information doesn't hurt too much. Opt. Because of course, why wouldn't you put it in opt? Opt, VBox guest edition, source, VBox guest. So this was where they made their modifications. We want to trigger this though. So instead of triggering that, we want to hopefully get some of this server dispatch and get active uniform. We're lucky enough to have that just like sitting around in here. No. No. So this is gonna make things a little bit trickier. Okay, so we had notes sitting around here someplace, didn't we? Where did my notes go? Notes. Okay, so we said there was a VBox. So there's Chromium, which is the VBox HGCM, which is the Host Guest Communication Manager. And for 2526, the specific flaw exists within it. That was the text off of that. We had some bugs here. Okay. VirtualBox added support for a new protocol, VBox HGCM, which stands for Host Guest Communication Manager. Well, let's see if we can find that. HGCM. There is quite a bit here. I really need to fix scroll back here. I think it's the what's the word I'm looking for? The Bash and Ubuntu on Windows stuff, the WSL. There's the scroll back that I'm using here is very small for some reason. I haven't gotten around to fixing it. So there's some macros here for lib shared folders. Is that, maybe that isn't a macro. It looks like a macro. Yeah, that's a macro. To do, what's good? Connect failed. Do we get good logs? I'm glad you started. VBox GL R3 guest control detect peek git cancel support supported. Thanks. Okay. Well, that tells us basically nothing. Where else do we have here? We have flags for stuff. So what I'm looking for here is ideally there's going to be a decent place for me to hijack that's going to let me just jam one of these HGCM calls through. That will actually, we can set it up to do all the things we want it to do. Because I don't want to necessarily have to set everything up, especially not if I have to compile this myself. But it looks like a VBGL R0 HGCM call is what I want to do. So what the crap are you? Q grep. One of these things. I don't want that. So we have a call, a raw, a user data raw. Yes, yes. This is includes for different things, so it's included. It's in both the VBox SF include and the VBox guest include. But not anywhere else. Okay, so that tells us a little bit. So we'll need to be someplace that includes the VBox guest lib. If we're using this, we might or might not be actually using this. Did we actually see where this thing is defined anywhere? Well, that might be worth doing, isn't it? No. Deprecated. These are all these all use the slow interface. Ooh, let's read what this note says. What does this tell me? It tells me that Vim doesn't do that by default. 109. These all use the slow HGCM call interface that basically treat ring 0 and userland callers much the same. Since 6.0, there is VBGLR0 HGCM fast call that does not bother with repacking the request and locking/duplicating parameter buffers, but just passes it along to the host and handles the waiting. Also new in 6.0 is embedded buffers, which saves a bit time on guest and host by embedding parameter buffers into the request. Okay. Okay. So how do these actually get used? So we have a So this uses the HGCM call with a P client handle, which got passed in somewhere. We have a data.callinfo, which just passes a reference, and we have a size of data. Oh, no. We initialize a VBox init call. We initialize it here. So what does this macro do? You know what? We're going to do this properly. Sudo apt get install exuberant ctags. Install. Okay, I think I can do macros expanded with GCC. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use ctag-r dot. Haha. You think I wouldn't do that? Where's this init call? Init call. Here's what I want. And this is doing, so a VBox init call will do a log func. It will then do a header init. So B I don't know what this is doing, but okay. HGCM function parameter. Why are they doing a do while 0? That's a little weird to me. But okay. So they're setting all these things. ID func and AC parameters are going to get thrown in like that. ID func becomes the U32 function. Okay, this all seems fine. So what I really want to do is I want to see where is Q. You were defined because the macro is going to explain it like that. Wall 0 is a no-op. So being a do while 0 means it will do it once and only once, which is why it doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know why they're putting it in a loop construct like that, because the do will do it once, and then it'll check the conditional in the while and say, oh, you said 0 times, so I guess we're done now. Awesome. But yeah, I really don't know why they would do it that way. VBox SF include VBox shuffle service. Okay. Oh, shared folders is what this is. Well, this is not what we want, obviously. Well, this is going to be unfortunate. If they don't actually expose what we need to make this call, that's going to be kind of a pain. Let's just do grep -rn active uniform. No. I'm glad people are at least learning things from the stream. So we actually don't know what we need to pass in to trigger this is. We know that it's a Chromium call. You know what? We're going to download the source code for this before we do anything dumb right now. VirtualBox downloads. I want older builds. That's what I want. VirtualBox 600 source. Well, except I don't want to. Yeah, this is a reasonable place to put it. Oh, what'd you do that for? There we go. What's this thing called? Oh, we gotta wait for it to finish downloading. So we're gonna pull this over and see where that gets us. Oh man, did I not? Why didn't anybody tell me that I didn't have the stream set up right? That, like I didn't have a title or anything. Jeez. Could have fixed that. As a future note for anyone, if I happen to be streaming and I don't have things filled out, feel free to tell me that I'm doing things wrong and I should fill it out. You're going to go away. For anyone curious about how why things are a little wonky when I start streams, relatively recently they've been a little weird when I first start streams. It's because the way that I have things set up, I'm using the Streamlab. Nope, don't do that. This is what I would pull over. So I'm using the Streamlabs OBS, which has a bunch of nice features for it, but for whatever reason, their automated start my stream now thing, it doesn't actually start it properly. It kind of starts it, but then doesn't actually connect it. So yeah. So now we have a real title. There we go. Okay. Finish checking. We're waiting for the VirtualBox source code to finish downloading. Because hopefully, in just a second here, it's going to finish. Chrome or Windows or whatever is going to finish whatever check they're trying to do here. We're going to actually pull it apart and we're going to take a look at what this looks like in the source code. Because we know that there's a vulnerability here. We know that there's a vulnerability because there's a CVE for it. So we need to take a look at it and see what's going on. Unfortunately, it looks like we're not necessarily getting all of the symbols I was hoping we'd get on the guest edition side. I was hoping we could get lucky and just have some of these structs here, but it looks like we might have to actually do real work. It's going to end up being kind of a pain if we end up having to compile this ourselves. Like, I'm not really looking forward to that. Come on. Come on. You're almost done. Aren't you? Are you done? You might just be done now. There we go. All I need to do is complain about it enough times and it will suddenly finish. Those progress bars magically jump. Look into integer, where integers get initialized in the actual. I'm not sure what you're suggesting. So we know in the source code basically what's happening. And we'll pull it up in a second. So in one of the earlier streams, we actually took a look at it and poked at it. Why is my file system moving like trash? Am I doing something dumb? No. We are in fact hitting 100% disk rates. Why are we doing 100% disk rates? Have I implemented host escapes? Yes, I have. Not for VirtualBox before, but I have done similar things on different things. Again, not necessarily finding the bugs, but knowing that there is a bug in a certain location, implementing it is much easier. 6. Because turns out it is much easier to deal with bugs when you already know what you're, like, if you already know where the bug is, it's a lot easier to do something with it. running on... I'm really curious why my disk, it feels like my disk is melting. Like, I have space, right? I'm not crazy here. Yeah, I have plenty of space. Okay. We have our tarball, tar-xvf, that thing. I mean, part of the reason it's going so slowly is because I'm doing it in WSL, and WSL is always slower with file I/O, but it is what it is. Reminds me, I'm not sure if I've updated to the latest version yet. I should probably get around to doing that. Supposedly it actually has a bunch of really good optimizations for some of the file I/O stuff. It's the kind of thing that I really should get around to doing sooner rather than later. Because this is like, dealing with this every time is kind of a pain. Because like, this isn't insanely slow, but it's slower than it would be bare metal. Like, it's obviously slower most of the time that I'm running something in WSL as opposed to on a bare metal machine, which is unfortunate. Like, I'd like it to be nice and fast, just ready to go. And her Explorer bugs? We'll see. Like I said, I don't really know what the next target that I'm planning on looking at is. I'm not sure if it's going to be a similar thing to the VirtualBox ones where we implement some CVEs, or maybe if we go back to... Like, I kind of feel like the next thing I do, I should like try and do a little bit of fuzzing, because I haven't done that in a while on stream. Like, it's been almost 2 years now since I've done... Or no, we did the Windows 95 fuzzing for a while. That was a little over a year ago. Anyway, the point here being, I'm thinking we're going to do some fuzzing in whatever the next target's going to be. And I haven't decided what it's going to be yet, but hopefully we'll get something useful. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be modifying the, to answer Ryan's question, we're going to be modifying the VirtualBox guest editions to trigger a CVE, if we can figure out what exactly we need to modify in it to actually trigger this. My thought here is that this should be relatively easy to do. All we need to do is essentially find a good place to... Well, so hopefully all it's going to take is we hook some init function that we know is going to get called, and then we're going to jam the initialization of calling this function, and hopefully this lets us just wreck everything and we end up crashing VirtualBox. But we'll see. Depressor says, I have a Windows and a FreeBSD machine. The Windows machine is always having performance problems, even if I'm just writing code. I don't know. I've actually found that Windows tends to have better performance. At least my experience has been that usually when Windows is having really bad performance, the reason is typically antivirus or backup software. For whatever reason, backup software and antivirus tends to just hog resources, especially disk I/O. I've had so many problems with, like, I had backups starting and the entire system just craters to a halt because it's just pinging constantly, that disk, especially when I had a spinning platter drive. I upgraded this machine to now be just an SSD, so it's not too bad, but it can be painful for those reasons. So, but especially true with VMs on Windows, especially if you're using like VirtualBox or VMware. Having disk I/O in a VM tends to have some ugly effects with disk I/O, especially with some of the like backup software stuff. I had major problems with that for a while, but since I stopped using those virtualization platforms and I now just use Hyper-V, I haven't had major issues with performance for anything. Currently I'm working on a project to make a Pwn tools in C. It's interesting. I'm definitely interested to see how that works out. Having better wrappers and things like that for exploitation is always useful. Like Pwn tools is very, very convenient because you're able to quickly write exploits in Python. Having something similar in C would be great. So we have this now. We're going to be lucky and... Okay, we have this and... what are we doing here? Before we get too far, we're going to do a ctags-r.here2. We're going to make a tags file. And so for anyone who isn't familiar with using Vim with tags, what we're doing here is we're setting up a tags file. And what that does is that basically indexes the entire source tree. So that in Vim, I can now jump around and say, here is some function, tell me where it's defined, or constant, or whatever it is. I can jump to the definition easily, and it makes it a lot easier to do things. It's probably the one common feature for IDEs that you have to do a little bit of work to set up in Vim, but just makes everything easier to work with. But when it's set up like this, I can now do things like, if I'm in the right window, I can. CR get active T. So we have these. We have a type dep for it. Get shaders. It has a type dep for it. We also have all this other crap. But this is not actually what I want. I want... Oh, I didn't put it in my to-do list, did I? I need to come back over here. I need to find this function. And ebox host services shared OpenGL CR server lib server get shaders.c. And now this should have, oh, nope. Here's an actual function for it. It's a thing. But yeah. So what I'm doing here, I'm hitting Control square brace, so that will jump to the definition, and I can do things like, oh, this CR get active T, where was that actually defined? And this jumped to the type def for it easily, and now I can do a Control T, jumps back to where it was. It's they call it tags in Vim. They're super convenient for jumping around source code. Like when I'm using Vim for doing source diving and like trying to read through a bunch of source code, it's so much easier to set up a tags file first and then be able to just jump around wherever I need. But since we're talking about this real quick, this is the bug. This is the bug that we're going to try and exploit. Basically, buff size here, buff size is an argument that's going to get passed in. And because buff size is a size I as opposed to a uint or something like that, apparently we can make it negative. I believe that's true. And because of that, we can make a cralloc that succeeds, but actually is much, much, much too small for what it should be. And the reason we know this, and we can show you this real quick, so cd into our VirtualBox, VirtualBox 5224, source, Where are we here? We're in VBox host services shared OpenGL. We're gonna actually lower you like this. And you're gonna go like that so we can keep seeing things. VBox host services shared OpenGL CR server lib vim server get shaders.c. Delete it because we were looking at this before. It's our old swap file. Oh, here we are right here. So our get active uniform. So the buggy version of it, the version that there is a CVE for, is this line right here. If buff size is less than int32 max. And what they replaced it with is if buff size is greater than 0 and it's less than it, then we're going to do things. As far as we could determine from the first or second stream, whenever it was we looked at this, this was the only change that they made to fix this. Basically, they just checked to make sure, oh, the buff size is big enough to actually have space for the stuff we need. So we now have the next kind of tricky thing we need to be able to do, which, while we know that this fixed it, well, it fixed something. Right. We haven't verified that yet, but that's the theory, that we're able to give it a negative number, essentially, and that negative number is going to, if buff size is negative, then, or it's negative, but less negative, basically, so we want this right here to be, say, 1 byte. What it's going to do is that's going to make the calloc here try and allocate 1 byte, which is clearly not enough size for this header that they're going to add on to it. And they then create it. After they've created it, they're going to like pass it in here. They're going to do all sorts of stuff with it, and they're going to free it. So ideally, what we should be able to see here is if we can make one of these calls, whatever we need to do to make a server dispatch get active attrib call with a buff size that's negative, we should actually see it immediately crash whatever process this is running in. Because when it goes to make this free, we should have corrupted the metadata when it smashes all over the, so we pass in here the buffer that it's going to work in. So hopefully we should see this just smash everything, and we'll actually end up with a nice buffer overflow and all sorts of nice data written all over the place. But we'll see. We need to actually trigger this first. Annoyingly, I'm not actually seeing where this should go. Wait a minute. Okay, good. So to say, we weren't actually looking at the function that we should have been. When I was describing what was going to happen in the exploitable version, we were looking at server dispatch get active attrib, not get active uniform. Apparently, they both do effectively the same thing. And I was going to say, wait, did they fix one of these but not the other? And it turns out, no, they did fix both of them. There's no new bug being dropped here, at least right now. So we have that, but how do we trigger it? So we need to actually pass in some sort of a thing. So we know it's a... So this was defined someplace, right? I'm hoping I don't have to go back and take a look at the old video quite yet. That's okay. You know what? No, we're looking this up real quick. Nope, this is my current video. We don't want that. We want to apparently watch a ad before we do anything. I am this many. I'm typing, I'm humming. So this was that first CVE.
Buff side.
So here we're looking at this. So this is episode 1. We're going through in episode 1 the exact same thing that I just talked through, that they add in this check to make sure that it's greater than 0, and that fixes things. So if I remember correctly, someplace in here we actually take a look and see, so this listed out a whole bunch of these similar functions. Did I already give up at this point? No. Here we go. So what was this function called? Like, what was this file called? Because this was some massive file that defined a whole bunch of these functions. Active uniform. No, we won't see that. Nope. Follow parameter name and the lines between you and that's what we want. So does it read any data into the buffer? Yes. So it's going to read some data into the buffer. When it does, well, presumably it's using that data. It's going to feed data into it. So get active attrib, it's, if I remember from what I was reading before, there's some sort, like we're requesting attributes for a window that's being rendered or a texture or something like that. So we're passing in it to the arguments. So there's this dispatch table, and the arguments to this are going to be the buffer size for the entire thing. We're then passing in a reference to the length, a reference to the size, a reference to the type, and then a reference to where we should actually store data. And the assumption I have right now that we're going to have to verify is that this won't get populated, but that these values will stomp on heap metadata. I don't know that for sure, but the assumption I have right now is that these 3 values are going to get filled in by this function, and that when it does that, we're going to get some sort of corruption, so that when it does this free, we get a crash. Again, we don't know that for sure. It's assumption. It's just an assumption right now. So I want to load so this is back in source VBox guest host OpenGL Glappy parser API spec. If we look in here, I should see a get active attrib. Yes. Yeah, so I don't know what we're going to do to actually exploit it yet. What I'm hoping for is just to get to the point where it crashes. And then once it crashes, we can figure things out from there about like what to actually do. But I need to get the crash first. But this is annoying. This doesn't appear to actually have the information I was hoping for. Or is this just a dispatch table? This might just be the dispatch thing. So, right, so there's this dispatch table. It's calling get active attrib with these arguments, which which might not have it like. Yeah, I don't think this is what we want. Like, grumble, grumble, grumble. This doesn't have an argument here, so I don't know how to actually call this thing. So the thought here is that this should correspond to some call number or something like that, which we can then pass in on the other side to one of these HTCM messages and say, just call this. We'll set up everything ourselves, just call it. But I don't know how to do that. Okay, we're going to try this again. So if we come in here, we come into, what do we have in guest host? This is not what I needed. Although, no, this is not what I needed. Where is this guy? We already know you don't have one. That's unfortunate. Okay, well then. Well, this is super frustrating then. So I don't actually know how to make one of these calls then, because I need a number for it, but I don't know how to get a number for it. I mean, the dumb thing I could do here is I can just try them. I know that buff size is going to be an argument, and I know roughly what this should look like, so I can just say, screw it, try them all. Like, it's a 64-bit, like, assume that it's a 16-bit int or something like that, and just iterate through all of them, call them with like -1 or something, and see what happens. I guess that's one way to do it. It's not the way I necessarily want to do it, though. Because ideally we're going to get, like, I really want to get the structs right for it. Because if I can find out a good way to pass in the right structs, this becomes much, much, much easier to do. Rather than effectively writing a terrible fuzzer for these calls. So we call it there. You know what? Let's take a look at this again. So VBox. Where is this? VBox SF. Include VBox Shuffle Service 1062. See, this is what I want to have. I want to have, like, here is a nice struct definition. It tells us how many parameters there are. But we're not in the shuffle. We need to be in the VBox video, which doesn't even have an include. Do any of these look like they have useful amounts of data in them? Okay. This is a .h file. That's 4096 bytes of guest VRAM, contains check info for all dual view chunks. Blah 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 blah. Well, I want to try and find the right structures. Like, I want to try and make sure I get the right things. What is this? These are flags of some sort. Interesting, but I don't think it's quite what we wanted. Okay. This looks closer to what I'm hoping to find. Yep, they use unions. It's one of the reasons why, if you look at the normal, like if you look at prices for bugs, like if we go in here, we're gonna say, where's their price list? Payments. No. No, it's Zerodium that publishes a. Zerodium are the guys that post their payout list. So if we look at this, we have, they'll pay $200,000 for an ESX virtual machine escape. 80 grand for a workstation escape, and do they not even list VirtualBox anymore? Interesting. Okay. They apparently don't even list VirtualBox as a thing they want or specifically need escapes for. Although I think if you look over here, no, they've apparently dropped their. Like, I seem to remember they used to have, they had a price for like Hyper-V stuff or for VirtualBox or for VMware, but apparently they dropped that at some point. You can feel free to submit it, and they will discuss it. But anyway, where were we? We were back over here. Still going through this. Huh. Command processing was async, set by the host to indicate async command completion. Must not be clear host set. So how do I actually talk to this thing? Oh, here we go. VBox command Chromium CTL connect. I don't know what this is, but it's apparently a thing. Because the Chromium stuff is what we want. Why is there only one of the things, though? Okay. Where is it? I felt like this was going to be where it would be. Are the HDSMI buffers the wrong ones? Yeah, the HDSMI buffers might be the wrong ones. This is not looking promising. This is looking like this just might not have the information I was hoping for. I feel like I hard code this old ass version date. So they set up a bunch of stuff. Yeah, that's not what we want. Okay. Crap. Okay. Let's jump back over here for a second. So this is an API entry. Oh. How about a glappy? Do we have a glappy in here someplace? No. Okay. Okay, we're going back over to this. So we said this was HG. So of course, all these freaking acronyms are all the same thing. Q. HGCM. So we have this stuff. And we do know kind of how to use some of this stuff. Whoa, what is this? I want to read this. VirtualBox video, HGSMI, CH, setup.h. Host flags can be accessed and modified in multiple threads concurrently. For example, CR OpenGL HGCM and GUI threads when completing HGSMI 3D and Video Excel respectively. AMT threads when dealing with HGSMI command processing, etc. Besides setting cleaning flags atomically. Oh, yes. So the problem with Hasma is that the path to get it is actually very tricky to figure out. It looks like it's a whole bunch of auto, like basically the path is auto-generated from this. Do we still have it open someplace? So where was this? Guest host, GL. I don't remember where it is. But anyway, where it is in here, it's actually auto-generated, and it's a pain in the ass to try and walk anywhere with it, because it's all auto-generated when it's compiled. I don't think we can do it without actually compiling it successfully. And from the people that I've talked to who have done VirtualBox research before, compiling it is terrible. Like trying to get VirtualBox to compile is apparently a massive undertaking. Which, you know, now that I say that, is probably similar in scope to getting it to run, at least given what I've seen so far. So, yeah. So they mention it here. Okay, so we're going to look up those two things real quick, right? So VBox video, VBox video.h, line 1573. Okay, request 3D data. The protocol is the following. If there is no 3D data displayed on screen, returns vinfo into file immediately without calling any pfnv box chromium connection 3D range callbacks. Otherwise, calls on submit, submits the regions get request to the OpenGL server to process it asynchronously and returns success. On a region get request processing calls region begin, then report 0 or more times for each 3D region, and then region end and returns an error code on failure. Okay. Well, these are various callbacks, which I don't know what this is going to actually do. Actually, you know what? Before we go too much farther, so if we look through this stuff, so CR server dispatch. There's a bunch of these dispatch functions that are all very similar, but we don't know how to call any of them. There's also a unpack extend. Okay. There's also a state. So there. So what I'm hoping for is one of these other ones might be a little easier for us to trigger. -RNI delete queries. Oops. Oop. Oh, it helps if I spelled it right, doesn't it? Okay. Well, that doesn't help then. How about a delete buffers function? Nope. So what I'm hoping for is that one of these is going to have RNI. What I was hoping for is that one of these would show up in this and be a little bit more straightforward about how to actually trigger it. But it looks like I am not that lucky. That it would appear we need to actually take a little bit more time and understand how these calls are being made, because if they're not... Where is the OpenGL thing? So we have source code, right? USB 2.3, VirtualBox RDP, disk enrichment, NVMe, Pixie boot. We're looking at the manual now. So we're going to need to turn on OpenGL. The Oracle VM VirtualBox Guest Edition contains experimental 3D support for Windows, Linux, and Oracle/guests. With this feature, if an application inside your virtual machine uses 3D features, attempts to use the host's 3D hardware. This works for all supported host platforms, provided that your host operating system can make use of it in the first place. Guest Editions must be installed. 3D acceleration. OpenGL on Windows requires kernel 2.6 or later. Ubuntu 10.10 has been confirmed working. Thanks. I don't think that even runs. No, I don't think the VirtualBox has good symbols. Besides, because 3D support is still experimental at its time, it's disabled by default, manually enabled in the VM settings. Untrusted guest system should not be allowed to use it because there's tons of bugs in it. How do I get the source code for it? For the basic 3D acceleration to work in a Windows guest, needs to replace the Windows system files in the virtual machine. As a result, the virtual installation program offers direct 3D acceleration as an option that must be explicitly enabled. How do they do it in here? Okay, let's see what you have to say. Oh, I need to give it an eye, don't I? Huh. Awesome. Undocumented helpers for talking to the OpenGL host service. Fucking awesome. So okay, let's take a look and see what that says. Okay. Okay. This is getting closer to what we want. So I think this is the function we're going to want to call. We just need to actually figure this out, right? So this is talking to the right service. We just need to actually get it to line up right. We need to actually fill out that pcall info. Are we lucky enough that this thing's called someplace? We're not. Where the crap is the source for this? Okay, let's take a look at this real quick. So this is in guest lib. VirtualBox guestlib.h. Well, at least it looks like the Windows graphics driver uses this thing. If I'm reading this correctly. So line 880 of this thing. What the crap do you have for me? So params, we set this up. VBox MP Chromium control connection set version. And it's when we call this HGCM header init, we pass in the Chromium GL guest function set version. We go to this thing, we need to search for this. We init it there. Oh, is this thing not actually as simple as I thought it was? Crap. Okay, we're going back here. Am I not in the right directory? I have my tags file. Okay, where is this thing used? Like, where is this thing defined? I want your definition, not your uses. Okay, Well, I'm just all sorts of confused. Right. This thing right here is getting passed in as an argument to whatever this macro expands to. But it has to be getting used. Okay, am I looking at something different than what I think I'm looking at? So they call this header init. One of the arguments is what should be some pound defined someplace. How is it not pound defined anywhere? Like anywhere. Because of fucking course, why wouldn't it be there? Of course, it's up a level. Why didn't I think of that? That's silly. Okay. Okay then. Let me think about this for a minute then. What am I doing? So I know that it is a 6. This function is a 6, whatever it is. What else is in there? So this is all the stuff that they're defining? Fucking awesome. Oh, jeez. I'm somewhat impressed that somebody figured out how to actually do something with this. Like, this is now, I guess this is close to a dozen hours I've been working on this now, and I still feel like I'm just stumbling around in their code base. And, I mean, understandably, like, saying it's a dozen hours doesn't feel like it's that much time. Like, it's a day and a half of full-time work. But I've also been working at this for a month now, just working on it once a week, and I feel only slightly more I only slightly understand what's going on more than I did when I started. At least that's what it feels like. Okay, you know what? We're going back and we're reading some of our old notes. Where was this stuff? So this thing we were reading about, we were reading through before. We're going to read through it a little bit more again. Yes, this old recon talk. blah, blah. Chromium rendering commands, vulnerabilities, fixes, exploitation. Blah, blah. Provide stuff so you can play Mario Kart. Guest additions must be enabled. Installs device driver. Windows guests there. Use port map.io. Chromium library. Renders 3D graphics. Yep. Protocol allows clients running in the guest machine to communicate with the server running on the host machine. Yep. Of course, they were doing their research on Windows, because why wouldn't you? So, you open it. And you just talk to it. Okay. VirtualBox guest driver handles device I/O control messages in that. Okay. Connect to that by doing this. Okay. Speaking Chromium. Has definitions for input buffer types, available Chromium guest functions, and parameter counts. Sending a call message to the VBox shared CR OpenGL service. We create a params, we set up some functions here. We set the function to be this, which maps to that. And then we do the same type of call. When it receives a ioctl HDCM call, it does the following. It copies our input buffer from the guest to the host, it performs a call to host code, comes back the results to from the host to the guest. Send a ioctl HDCM connect message, send a call message. So we connect, we call. So we need to set a version, set a PID. After that, the Chromium client can start sending call messages specifying which guest function it wants to invoke, and then it disconnects. Okay. A client sends a bunch of rendering commands. It then interprets those and stores the result into a frame buffer. The content of the frame buffer is transmitted back to the client in the VM. We throw, whoa, that is confusing. Okay. Sequence can be performed by the Chromium client in different ways. Okay. Allocate buffer that's not freed until the Chromium client sends a message to invoke the write read buffered function. To allocate and deallocate at will an arbitrary number of buffers of arbitrary size with arbitrary contents in the address space of the hypervisor process that runs on the host machine. CR unpack handles opcodes and data sent by a Chromium client through a CR message opcodes message. Ooh. Unpack was one of the ones we had stuff for, wasn't it? That was actually one of this year's, like one of the recent things, right? Unpack, extend, get. It's just out of bounds reads, right? Okay, that's less interesting. Because in order for us to do anything with those, we'd have to actually be able to talk it properly. The code for this function generated by the Python script there, it parses a file called API spec containing the definition for the whole OpenGL API and generates C code to dispatch Chromium opcodes to corresponding OpenGL functions. So in this case, VBox server client write ends up calling that before calling CR unpack. Oh. Wait, there's documentation for Chromium? I want to read this. Okay. Haha. There's documentation. Document is intended to provide an overview for how the various pieces of Chromium work and what's going on behind the scenes when you do these runs. Probably a grab bag of useful nuggets of information in no particular order. Hopefully this will be useful if somebody wants to experiment with changing some part of the core architecture and just extending it. The mothership is usually the first thing that will run for any Chromium session. We've already described in detail how the script will work, so let's focus on the Brain Packer creates buffer simple sending over a network out of the OpenGL. Is this something useful? Clusters of workstations. It is completely extensible architecture so that parallel rendering algorithms can be implemented on clusters with ease. Among Chromium features are stuff, words. Chromium for beginners. Introduction to Chromium. Over the past few years, progressing computers addition and allows most serial applications to run without modification and allows creation of powerful new parallel graphics applications capable of fully exploiting the power of these clusters. A Chromium network is a set of nodes arranged in a directed acyclic graph connected by a network interconnect. A Chromium node is a process that responds to OpenGL commands. Okay. What? Why is this so complicated? Oh my god, this is so complicated and I hate it. Okay. So they called CR net receive readback. Show me how you triggered it. There's an exploitation. No, I don't want fixes. I want exploitation. Well, design flaws is pretty ideal for exploitation. It's a rate what where. Yeah. What? Oh, okay. This is not going anywhere that I was hoping it would, is it? Okay. Does this thing work? Oh, great. Now I have to search through this for their thing. Oh. Here's their advisory for it. Okay. So we open a handle to it. They then call a connect. What just? They then call. So they use. Where did that come from? Oh, do I just need to run this script and hope for the best? Okay. Okay. You know what? We're gonna save this. Okay. I think what we're gonna do at this point is we're gonna save this and we're gonna call it a day. We're getting closer. We have a working environment. We have guest editions building. We just don't know right now what modifications need to be made. But this looks promising towards giving us a little bit of the information we need to start moving into that. Basically, I think what we're going to do next episode is we're going to actually run this script, which I guess is going to build one of these tables for us. And then that table is going to let us build out some code to jam into our guest editions to actually trigger this stuff. Because we're going to figure out an opcode, we're going to throw data into it, and hopefully that's going to work then. I don't know for sure that it's going to work, but I'm hopeful. Quite hopeful that works out. Because if it doesn't, well, we're going to go back to bashing our head against things, and that's just not very fun, is it? It turns out it's much more fun when things work, as opposed to when we're kind of just spinning our wheels and trying to go, why won't this work? But with that said, I think we're just about done for today. We've been going for about 3 hours now, which is about the limit of how long I can keep talking to myself like this. And I've kind of noticed as I keep going and going and going, more and more often, I kind of just start reading something and not really talking about it, which is not ideal for people watching. So with that said, I think we're probably done for today. I'm going to try and get some of the recap videos put together. So I still have not done a recap video for episodes 2 or 3 of this series. I need to get around to that soon, because ideally I'd already have that done, but I've been quite busy. I think what I'm going to end up doing is just doing a single recap video for episodes 2 and 3 because they didn't really go anywhere, and then get a recap video for part 4, and if I'm lucky, all of this will be done by next week. However, this weekend is kind of shot for me because instead of being able to work on things like that, this weekend is going to be Zero CTF, which is probably the first of the big CTFs for the year, at least that I've been aware of. There've been a number throughout so far this year, but we haven't had a number of the big CTFs that I'm used to seeing in January and February. It looks like they either got pushed out or they didn't quite happen. So the first of the really ones that I'm personally excited for, and that I'll be playing I'm planning on playing all weekend pretty seriously, is going to be Zero CTF this weekend, which is going to be a little tricky to then do any sort of video work. So we'll see. I'm definitely looking forward to playing this weekend. We'll see how things work out. I'm hopeful that I'll be able to do a little bit of screen recording during the CTF, and hopefully have some stuff come out of that for posting, as far as not only how do I approach some of these CTF challenges might be fun to do too. But like I said, I think we're about done for today. So thanks again, everybody, for coming. And it's been very nice to be back to streaming. And I guess with that, we're basically done for today. So I'll see you all next week. And hopefully, if you have time, you're going to play some CTF with me this weekend. Bye, everybody.
say you won't leave me. I know it's too easy to run away, to run away. I know you wanted this, I never wanted this to end, but now we're going down. Whoa, picking up the pieces that we left here, we just left here.
No way of knowing where to go now, go now, go now. Where to go now, go now, go now. No way of knowing where to go. No way of knowing where to go. No way of knowing where to go now, go now, go now. Where to go now, go now, go now.
All my senses told me it's the wrong way to go, but I don't know if it's worth it. Oh, it's always the wrong day to show, and I don't know.
Where to go now, go now, go now. Where to go now, go now, go now. No way of knowing where to go now, go now, go now. Where to go now, go no way of knowing where to go. No way of knowing where to go now, go now, go now. Where to go now, go now, go now.
Hey, I don't think you're there, but it's 2 a.m. I'm awoke and scared. I'm alone tonight. Yeah, I'm alone tonight. Do you still sleep with that old brown bed that I won for you at our first date fair? I'm alone tonight. Yeah, I'm alone tonight. I know some days we all cry, we break down, yeah, we lose our minds. Let it go sometimes. Got to let it go sometimes. I know some days we all cry, we break down, yeah, we lose our minds. Let it go sometimes. Got to let it go sometimes. I know some days we all cry, we break down, yeah, we lose our minds. I know some days we all cry, but let's trust life. Let's just trust life. I know it's fate that we traveled up and down everywhere, but I'm alone tonight. Yeah, I'm alone tonight. Do Do you still drive that old Accord that broke down on us and was uninsured? I'm alone tonight. Yeah, I'm alone tonight. I know some days we all cry. We break down, yeah, we lose our minds. Let it go sometimes. Got to let it go sometimes. I know some days we all cry. We break down, yeah, we lose our minds. Let it go sometimes. Got to let it go sometimes. I know some days we all cry. We break down, yeah, we lose our minds. I know some days we all cry. But let's trust life. Let's just trust life. In time it all works out. It's nothing to cry about. We always have our doubts, but let's trust life. Let's just trust life. I know some days we all cry, but let's trust life. Let's just trust life. In time it all works out. It's nothing to cry about. We always have our doubts, but let's trust life. Let's just trust life.
Building a fortress, and we thought it was stronger, keeping your distance. I thought we were better. We can try to just hide from the pain by building our castle. We can build them again and again, and we can feel nothing. And I know that you're feeling alone, and we can do better. So help me to break through the stone. Help me to break through. You always miss my calls. Run around in circles cause you're nervous I won't catch you when you fall. You're so defensive. Why you're so defensive? Don't listen to the voices in your head. They're gonna take you down and you know it. I'll be waiting till you come to your senses. Baby, tear down your fences. Baby, tear down your fences. Don't listen to the voices in your head. They're gonna leave scars if you don't show it. I'll be waiting till you come to your senses. Baby, tear down your fences. Baby, tear down your fences for me. Understand why I miss you, and that's an issue. Whoa. Don't listen to the voices in your head. They're gonna take you down and you know it. I'll be waiting till you come to your senses. Baby, tear down your fences. Baby, tear down your fences. Don't listen to the voices in your head. They're gonna leave scars if you don't show it. I'll be waiting till you come to your senses. Baby, tear down your fences. Baby, tear down your fences for me. Baby, tear down your fences for me. Don't listen to the voices in your head. They're gonna take you down and you know it. I'll be waiting till you come to your senses. Baby, tear down your fences. Baby, tear down your fences. Don't listen to the voices in your head. They're gonna leave scars if you don't show it. I'll be waiting till you come to your senses. Baby, tear down your fences. Baby, tear down your fences for me. Baby, tear down your fences for me. Baby, tear down your fences for me.
Are you only passing through, or are you gonna love me? Are you only passing through, or are you gonna love me? Are you only passing through, or
Incoming message.